Please take this opportunity to silence your cell phones. We will begin very shortly. Thank you. Please welcome Head of Engineering for Slack's Business Technology Group, Sean Herron.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Herron, and I'm the Head of Application Engineering for Slack's Business Technology Group, which is what we call IT. We're a team focused on building internal tools and custom applications for Slack's own employees. It's really exciting to be at Spec today, and I'm so glad to have the opportunity to share some of what we do with you. As a business technology team, our mission is to create exceptional technology experiences with Slack at the core. I imagine many of you in the audience have a slightly different mission or goal, but there's a bit of this that rings true in your worlds. And that is that you're looking to bring technologies to your users through Slack's platform. Today, we're going to be sharing some lessons and best practices we've developed for our own internal application developers when they build custom Slack applications. Our goal is for you to leave with some things to keep in mind as you develop your own set of internal tools. So within business technology, we have 4 key focus areas. They probably mirror your own organization's priorities. First, employee services. The very basics, ensuring our employees have the productivity essentials they need to do their jobs. Next, enterprise architecture, planning our tools and our services and our systems to be interoperable and scalable. Third, our business systems, the services that keep the company running, such as our HR platform, our financial management software, and our sales enablement suite. And finally, data and analytics, ensuring that Slack employees have high quality and accessible data to inform decisions and drive priorities. At the core of all of this, though, is Slack. We've formalized a program that we call Slack on Slack. It's aimed at showcasing Slack's platform capabilities to create a simple, pleasant, and productive experience for our own employees. In other words, using the same APIs, platform features, and so on as you all do, we've trialed lots of business processes and tools within our company internally. Slack is the only application that every single one of our employees uses on a daily basis. It's the first thing that we open in the morning when we show up at work, and the last thing we look at when we go home. We developed Slack on Slack with the goal of bringing the processes and workflows employees need into Slack itself, creating a simple, pleasant, and productive experience. So today, our team is going to share 3 key components of how we make Slack on Slack successful. Our goal is for you to be able to apply a similar process in your own organization. First, we'll discuss how we discover business processes in our organization that are great candidates for inclusion in the Slack on Slack program, and how we work with stakeholders to get buy-in. Next, we'll talk about how we actually go about building that process into Slack. And finally, we'll talk about how we drive and measure adoption. These 3 components are critical for any developer looking to build a tool. Without a clear business need and a campaign to drive adoption, even the most elegant app in the world may go unused. So let's start with recognizing those business needs. If your needs are anything like ours, mapping them out may look a little something like this. It's a little bit of chaos, right? And there's a lot of stuff going on. It's incredibly important to focus on clearly identifying each individual need and then prioritizing those needs against a set of structured criteria. I find it helpful to think of 3 key groups in your identification process. At the top is your team. If you develop on Slack for your own organization, chances are that you and your team are already looking at a lot of business processes that you know you want to automate. Many of the applications that we build for internal use at Slack come from ideas within our own business technology team. In most organizations, this is also the smallest group, just you and your immediate peers. Although the group is small, it's often the easiest group to get specific and well-scoped ideas from, especially if they're already deeply familiar with the capabilities of the Slack platform. But let's say you're just getting started. Maybe you're new to the organization, new to Slack, or you've already developed tons of great things and you're looking for your next challenge. That's where the next levels come into play. So that next group is your business partners. At Slack, we work really closely with our traditional IT partners, groups like finance and accounting, sales, marketing, and HR, to jointly identify processes that are human-intensive and good candidates for potential automation with Slack. This is likely a much larger group than your immediate team, and it often means that you need to invest a little bit of time and energy in really understanding their needs. For us, this means that we often sit directly with those partner teams, observe their workflows, and sometimes even try the work ourselves to get a really clear understanding of the problem and how we can use Slack to help. A user-driven design approach is extremely key in getting alignment with them. And then finally, beyond our traditional partners, we found that many of the most innovative and creative ideas come from our broader employee base. We run an extensive crowdsourced ideation program with our employees, where they can contribute ideas in a Slack channel around processes they think are ideal candidates for a Slack application. Some of our most innovative ideas have come from this area. However, it's also very easy to get inundated with requests from people who want to do everything possible in Slack. Often, you'll find that you'll need to spend a significant amount of time working with these folks to refine their ideas into an actionable project. However, they can result in some really outstanding things. We'll share some examples of those projects and the ideas that cause them later on today. Okay, so let's say our jumble of ideas are much more organized now. But how do we actually choose and prioritize the projects that we're going to work on? There's a few key criteria that we use when considering how we're going to invest our time and energy when building on Slack. So the very first thing we look at is the business impact. So in this case, who is the intended audience and what is the expected impact to our business? Is this something that will seldomly help a large number of people? Or only a few key people use this tool, but they'll use it every single day? The answer is probably somewhere in between for most applications. And the key is really understanding who your audience is and what problem you are solving for them. At Slack, we tend to focus on automating processes that affect a wide population of our employees. We're really growing fast, and every incremental automation we can introduce helps us significantly. Next, we consider if Slack is an amplifier. So we don't want to build on Slack just for the sake of building on Slack. We want to use Slack to help processes become more useful. So maybe we'll be able to broaden a tool's adoption since we'll be able to reach more users in a place they already are versus bringing them to an external website. Or maybe we'll offer more context during ongoing conversations in Slack, such as discussing relevant metrics when talking about a problem you're trying to solve for a customer. Or perhaps there's a very specific metric that you think you can improve in Slack, such as the time to resolution SLA or the time to complete an action that you think you can improve. And then finally, does this help improve the Slack ecosystem? This last one is a little unique to our internal team, but it has impact on everyone here. When we're building internal apps, we're constantly dogfooding our latest features to ensure that they're useful, intuitive, and a joy to use before rolling it out to the broader community. For instance, are new block it elements working correctly in large messages? Does the application work across an enterprise grid organization? Or even how does it look in dark mode? One of my favorite parts of our work is finding bugs and weird edge cases and features before they go out to the world, both because they're fun puzzles to solve, but also because it means that we're ensuring our customers have the best experience possible on Slack. Okay, so we found a great business need. Our team is on board. It's time to build. What's next? So with Slack, there are 3 types of applications that serve very different use cases for the people in your organization. They range from off-the-shelf, simple and ready to use, to very customized and custom-built. External apps are built by our partners and intended to be used for a specific purpose, such as Jira, GitHub, Trello, or Salesforce. There are thousands available in the Slack app directory. We know how important security and privacy is to you, so when you're installing each of these external apps, you'll be able to see what permissions the app is requesting. You can also select a list of pre-approved apps for your organization to use. This way, you know that the apps your users are installing have gone through the right review processes that you and your company need. Workflow apps are built using a visual tool that allows any Slack user to build custom workflows that automate routine processes. These workflows unblock productivity by connecting teams to the right people and information needed to complete their work. Workflow Builder is built right into Slack, so it's easy to get started with, from scratch or with the import of a pre-built template. Finally, custom applications can range from simple notifications all the way to powerful systems that integrate with multiple external tools to meet the exact need of your team. These are built internally by your developers on our open APIs. So let's talk about an example scenario. I'd like to bring up my colleague Nicole, the change management and communications leader for Slack Business Technology, to help me out.
It's really nice to see everyone at Slack today. You know I'm a big fan of Slack on Slack, Sean. Do you remember when I came to talk to you about some of the friction that exists in my team's workflows today? And I thought maybe you could help us build something on Slack. I gave Sean the context that we're growing so fast and getting so many new joiners each week that it's hard to get them all up to speed at the same pace and aligned on the general Slack knowledge that they need to read about in their first week. We wanted to know if there was a standard way, something we could build so that the new joiner could share information with us and we could share information with them.
I completely remember, Nicole, and I gave you great news. You don't even need my team to build this in Slack. You can use Workflow Builder. This was created so that anyone can build simple integrations. It's actually built right into Slack, so you don't even need to install anything. You can just click on your menu dropdown under your workspace name and click Workflow Builder.
Thanks, Sean. And that's what I did. I went back to my desk and I tried it out. And let me show you what I found. So I came here to my team channel, which is the place that we share important information like lunch, photographs, and actually is inevitably where new joiners end up in their first week. And I thought this would be a good place to start. So I tried to follow Sean's instructions. I went to find the drop-down menu in Workflow Builder, and there it was. It told me that it had a place for me to go where there were some ideas, and I'm always open to good ideas, so I clicked on that. And there I found a library, and what do you know? There was an onboarding new channel members template ready for me, so I clicked on that. And I scrolled down, and I saw that this was perfect for sharing information and resources when new hires join a channel. Perfect. So I went ahead and downloaded that example. Simple as pie. There it was, ready for me to import. I went ahead and clicked import, and at the click of a button, it grabbed my code, gave my workflow a name, onboarding bot, which I kind of liked, so I didn't edit that. And there it was. Imported my workflow, and all my steps were already there for me. So before I went ahead and started editing, I saw it wanted me to actually point the workflow to a channel. So I went ahead and used the simple edit button and pointed this to Team BizTech, which I showed you earlier. I saved that, and then I scrolled down to see what else it wanted to do. It wanted to send a message to the person who joined the channel. Gave me some copy, gave me some pinned resources, all looked good. But there's no external guests in this team channel. So I simply went ahead and edited that. Very easy to edit, deleted the copy I didn't want, put in welcome, which is always a nice thing to tell a new joiner, very polite. And I saw what else it wanted to do. Create a form to ask the new joiner to tell us about themselves, your name, about yourself, and a fun fact. Sounded good to me. So I went ahead and looked for that publish button at the top of the screen and hit publish. And look at that. My workflow's ready. I got the confetti. You always know you're onto a good thing when you get the confetti. So it was so simple and so easy that I almost felt a little skeptical. Like, did the thing I just built, is it going to work? So, of course, I wanted to test it out. In my job, I don't give anything to my users before I test it. So I went ahead and left the team channel, a bold thing to do, and simulated me rejoining as a new joiner. So let's see what happened. There I am, left the channel. I rejoined the channel, and just like that, Slackbot DMs me and offers me some important information to bring me up to speed on my first week, some pinned resources, and very neatly, a button at the end where I can share some information with my team. I choose my name. I pop some information in there about myself and my 2 dogs. And of course, I share a fun fact about sushi. I submit that, and it should send it to Team BizTech. And there you go. Team BizTech bolds up, and there's a lovely form with information about myself for my team to see. I'm so impressed with myself, I give myself a little emoji, and there you go. I may have got a bit carried away at the end, but the point being that it was so simple and so fast, and if I have to be honest, I maybe had a little fun doing it as well. And if I can do it with very little deep technical expertise, then anyone on your team can do this too. You don't need to be a developer. Now, that's not to say that there might not be times where it's more fitting to develop a deeper and more custom app on top of Slack. And here to talk to us about that today is our staff engineer, Monica Wilkinson.
Hi. So thank you, Nicole. So while Nicole was busy building her onboarding process through a no-code workflow, my team was actually freed up to develop powerful internal tools which can only be achieved through custom development. So today I'm excited to share 2 of these apps we built for the sales organization. The first one is called Approval Spot. Approval Spot is a custom app that facilitates the approval of deal terms right from Slack. So the problems we set out to solve were, how do you streamline the approval process for deal terms? How do you keep the right people informed? And most importantly, how do you empower managers to approve deals quickly with all the right information at their fingertips so that the sales cycle can move forward for our customers? We thought this process was ripe with opportunity, but as Sean mentioned before, it is important to assess the impact and determine what success looks like. We found 2 areas where this project would have the most impact. First of all, productivity. The Slack app could save our sales team countless hours of repetitive work by posting in channel automatically the details about the deal and requesting approvals. Then, system of record. We could ensure that the information our sales team was presenting to our customers matched the terms we had set in Salesforce. So bringing the quote details into a dedicated Slack channel meant all of this information is more transparent, making it easier for everyone to coordinate as well as useful for company audits. So let's see Approval Spot in action. In this example, I'm going to show you, we have our customer Acme who wants to buy 7,500 seats on Grid. And the account executive, Carrie, has started working on a deal structure with her manager, Maggie. When they are ready to have the deal terms reviewed, they can push a button in Salesforce to start the approval process. They confirm the channel name, and that shares to Acme's dedicated private Slack channel. The deal structure details flow into Slack as a message. There we go. And additional details can also be shown as modals. So in here, you can see that we're showing what the ask was, the justification, what levels of approvals are needed, as well as the quote lines. And for additional information, we leverage block-it and modals to show the approval details, as well as customer stats and more details about the quote lines. The good news about this is that we also use threads, and we're able to add mention each approver when it's their turn to approve. There we go. So we think Slack is awesome, and generally everyone at our company is logged into Slack. However, Salesforce is also a very popular place, especially for our sales team. So we built this custom app to allow approvals to happen either in Salesforce or in Slack. So in this example I'm showing you, you can see how approver Fred Enriquez is able to approve from Salesforce, and the experience updating Slack is seamless. So here he just approved, and there you see it goes in Slack. And you can see how this process continues until all the approvals are obtained. So let's talk a little bit about the architecture. First of all, we leverage Salesforce CPQ approvals for the backend, so we didn't have to build complex logic for managing the state. Salesforce CPQ is a Salesforce extension that helps sales organizations build quotes and manage the approvals needed for non-standard deal terms. If you've worked with it, you know it's really, really customizable. Secondly, we leverage Workato, which is our integration platform in BizTech. Workato development is easy, leveraging low-code UX and commercial connectors. We use Workato to quickly connect to Salesforce, as well as to expose API endpoints, which could be invoked from Salesforce when the approval happens, and send in real time to Slack. Workato is a low-code integration platform, which is very robust and extensible. You can build recipes which are similar to workflows and integrate it with other corporate systems, including Slack. Also, using Workato, we were able to easily build blockade messages using their Workbot connector, which gave a very compelling experience directly from Slack, including leveraging the new blockading modals. So to recap, the flow starts in Salesforce when the code is submitted for approval. Then Workato creates the Slack channel if needed and invites all the appropriate approvers to this private channel. Workato also handles every time the approval status changes by updating that post in place and then posting a new message in thread requesting the next approval if necessary. So this is an example of how we leverage Workato to create a low-code app solution. Next, we're going to look at another bot called Midas Touch, which was even more fun to build because we had some significant challenges. So let me tell you a little bit about the backstory. So about 2 months ago, the sales analytics team reached out to us after a big brainstorm with sales leadership. They wanted to deliver their impactful dashboards to the sales reps. They mentioned that even though they had great dashboards on their BI platform, the sales reps would still spend about 2 to 4 hours building decks before meetings. And it would be great if this deck creation was all automated and delivered via bot in Slack. Also, they asked us for this bot to be named Midas Touch. Again, before we started building this app, we defined the business impact. Productivity, of course. Midas Touch would greatly reduce the time the sales team spent digging up stats to showcase how the customers use our product. Prior to Midas Touch, our account execs and customer success teams would have to dig through multiple dashboards and spend hours creating their own slides for upcoming meetings like quarterly business reviews. With Midas Touch, all of this is automated and can be initiated right from Slack. The other impact Midas Touch would have is that it helps our sales team be aligned on the key content and data sources which show customer engagement, helping us provide a consistent and compelling narrative to customers, regardless of who they work with at Slack. So fast forward 2 months later, we were able to do a POC, we refined the requirements for V1, we ran multiple UATs, and we shipped the final version on October 9th. We got really great feedback. So before I show you that feedback, let's see how this bot works. So account executives will do a /Midas command to get started, and that loads up the bot. Then they can search for whatever account they are working with using type ahead. So this is querying Salesforce directly. Finally, the request is sent to our backend, and we fetch all of the data from our data warehouse and build the Google Slides leveraging a template. In this example, we are also showcasing some key stats for that particular customer. Let's take a look at what this Google Slides contain. So as you can see, the Google Slides is about 12 slides and tells the entire story about how customers use our product, how long they've been using it, what times a day they use it, what apps they use the most, etc. One really neat thing about this Google Slide template is that it actually has native G Sheets as the data source for each chart. So account executives can open source, and if there's some date ranges that they are not interested in showcasing, they can edit that. And in general, it's very customizable and helps customers understand how they can get most value out of Slack. So how did we build this one? Why was it more complex? So once again, it started with a slash command. That's pretty easy, and we were able to send it to our integration platform, Workato. When we receive this request, the first thing we do is we query Salesforce to make sure that the user on Slack actually can access the data. So we make sure that there's actually a Salesforce account for them. Once the account is chosen, we look up that account ID and programmatically run a dashboard in Looker. The reason we do this is because Looker is querying our data warehouse using Presto and crunching a lot of usage data. So we decided to make the call to Looker asynchronous. Once Looker has generated the data, it sends it to Workato's webhook. And it contains the data as CSVs, and the CSVs are gzipped. So Workato is not great at unzipping these files in memory. So we decided to build a microservice on Heroku that handles that as well as manages caching, because we want the response to be really fast. If they've already asked for this account to be returned, we actually want it to return in seconds, as well as job retries. If there's any kind of network issues, we want to do exponential backup and keep retrying so we can return the template or the slides to the user. So the Midas Touch microservice is responsible for extracting the data, replacing the Google Slides template, and then messages back to Workato with the information to share back to the user. Finally, Workato sends the blockade payload to Slack to generate a rich preview with meaningful stats. So Midas Touch was a decently complex application where we use a mix of low code as well as Python, but it was definitely worth the effort. The feedback was fantastic. At the end of the day, this custom application saved our sales team hours of busy work a week and give them more time to focus on the needs of our customers. So to recap, we just saw 2 examples of how we were able to build custom apps for our partners in sales. The power of the Slack API is what allows us to build deep, rich integrations like this. And we continue to be amazed at all the apps you've all built so far. And we're excited for what you're going to build next. But our work as internal developments doesn't stop at being dev complete. In order for a tool to really be successful, it needs to be used. So I'm going to invite Nicole back onto the stage to talk about how to get the tools adopted by your employee base. Thanks.
Thank you, Monica. You're so right. It's often the last thing that we think about, bringing what we have built out to the people who will be using it. But in Slack on Slack, we encourage our idea submitters to think about the people right from the get-go. In fact, when you submit a Slack on Slack idea, as you can see here on our Slack on Slack intake form, we ask you to state the problem and the pain, of course, and of course the idea. But right up front, we ask you to articulate who the audience is. Who are the people who will be using this app? Who are the people who will benefit from this app? And in this way, we're encouraging our idea submitters to think about the business value they will be creating by thinking about the people who will be using the technology and what they will do with it in their daily work. So the ideas come in through Slack on Slack, and Monica's team starts building, but we still need to be thinking about our users. We use a custom-built change enablement framework that guides our idea submitters on basic preparation for deployment. It encourages them to think about not only who is the audience, but also priming the audience and preparing them. Think about mobilizing them and getting visual assets or other assets ready. Think about enabling and reinforcing the change that you're about to bring into the organization. And of course, iterating and continuously measuring for feedback. So to bring this to life, idea submitters will see another form in channel, triggered now during the build phase, looks similar to the intake form you saw, that assesses readiness. And this asks, really, are you ready? UAT is coming soon, we're nearly there. Is your target audience, who you've just defined in the very beginning, are they ready for this? So we encourage our idea submitters to have answers to things like, who are your internal stakeholder groups? Do you know how they fit together? Are there external parties that might be impacted by your app? Can you think of any cross-functional or conflicting or competing projects within your organization that may do well with a little bit of an alignment conversation? It asks, what is the plan of action to tell people about this? How are you going to get the message out? What will people connect this to you? Do you have visual assets? Are they compelling? Are they on brand? Do you have a group of early adopters or evangelists or champions that you can partner with to get the word out? We ask them to think about, how are people going to know what to do? Have you thought about training and performance support? And what happens after you deploy? Where do your users go with problems or if they need help? Maybe now you can build a simple workflow builder in your help channel or your triage channel because now you know how to do that. And of course, we encourage people to know, what are you measuring? And how often will these metrics be tracked? Where will you be reporting them? And remind people to build in triggers to come back to post-launch metrics, an area that is sometimes forgotten. So, the big moment. Your app is ready and everyone's excited. But there's still work to be done. Hopefully, you've already planned a fabulous deployment that helps users understand what your app is about, how they can use it to drive their work in Slack, and where to go to learn how to use it properly. One of the things that we find helpful at this stage is to use storytelling or the story arc framework to really bring this to life for people. So for example, when it came to deploying the Midas Touch app that Monica's just shared, we worked with our partners in sales ops and sales enablement, and we brought to life a story about Jack and Sarah. Jack from sales, Sarah from customer success. So we led with the people rather than leading with the features and functionality. And the story went something like this. Jack and Sarah were working on this great opportunity for this giant customer, and they found some fantastic data that they were absolutely sure would drive next steps for this account. But when they thought about all the things that it would take to get the right information to the customer, they felt a little overwhelmed. They worried about the time and manual effort this was going to take. Last time I checked, salespeople were pretty busy. They worried about how to pull the most relevant data. So much data, so many dashboards. What do I show the customer? And they worried about how to put the visual narrative together in a way that would be great for the customer to receive it, in a way that would be compelling and easy to discuss. So following our simple story arc framework, we introduced the characters, we built the tension, and then the story introduced Midas Touch, a new workflow that addresses all of these challenges at the click of a button right from inside Slack. And in this way, we brought to life the app, we brought to life the technology by showing how it could be applied with real context. So we pulled the technology out of the screen and made it into a story. And as you can see, the problem starts to be solved, and we can build on our story with a happy Jack and a happy Sarah. Now, not only did we put the story of happy Jack and Sarah into Slack channels, of course we did, into announcements channels and team channels and local channels, but we also took it to live meetings. We took it to live all sales meetings with amazing demos, and we brought in an early user who was interviewed, who could talk about the app from a human perspective. And all of sales were encouraged to think about using data in more of their pitches. Beyond that, sales employees will have access to training sessions, videos. New joiners will hear about this as they onboard. And of course, there'll be regular check-ins with our business partners to get feedback over time so that we can continuously improve and iterate. So that old Midas can go out and create more gold. So with that, I will hand over to Happy Sean to summarize all that we've discussed today.
Thanks, Nicole. So today, we've covered 3 important topics that you need to consider as you begin your journey building internal tools with Slack. How to recognize the business potential for Slack automation, the different approaches you can take to actually build that app, and how to drive adoption within your organization. Nicole shared an awesome example of using Workflow Builder to create a new hire onboarding experience. And Monica shared 2 examples of custom-built applications we've created internally that help our employees automate processes as we scale. Most importantly, we hope that you can walk away from today thinking about how you can have an impact on your organization by building on Slack. We found that partnering with your workforce, focusing on your audience, and finding the right metrics to measure your adoption are key to success. The potential here is limitless, and we're excited to hear about all of the amazing things that you're creating. One last note, we published a blog post yesterday on slackhq.com detailing more specifically some of the integrations we talked about today, as well as some of the other custom applications that we've built. And so if you have an opportunity, I think it would be great if you could check it out. We'll be up front here afterwards in the presentation. Please feel free to come up and chat with us, share the things that you're building, ask us questions, but most of all, thank you.